Day number 11 of Chicago Bears training camp is in the books, and it may have been the most physical practice in 20 years. What's going on, guys? I'm back with another Chicago Bears training camp update video, which I'll be doing every single day of training camp this year. Today was, according to all the reports, the most physical practice of camp and maybe in the last 20 years, because all the reporters out there were going crazy about how hard the hitting was. There were multiple fights that broke out. Guys were scuffling. Guys were jumping onto each other. Like, it was a brutal, tough practice, one of the toughest we have ever seen. Being Chicago Bears fans weren't allowed today. It was only the media. It was a later practice, started at 12:30, which is why this video is coming out to you guys a little bit later. But let's just get into it, guys. So talking about the injuries, first of all, nothing changed at the beginning of practice, but unfortunately Cole Kmet went down with some type of injury and he left the field and did not return. So I guess we're going to have to wait to see what happened. I'm hoping and praying it was nothing serious. The fact that he did walk off by himself, according to my knowledge, is a good sign that he wasn't carted off or anything. But I guess that's the one downside of going so hard. Like, injuries can happen, and I really hope and pray Cole Kmet, like, it's nothing serious for him, because he is still going to be a big part of the Bears offense. Even though we drafted Colson Loveland, like, Kmet is still going to be a big part of this offense in terms of blocking, in terms of red zone, in the middle of the field. Like, he's still going to be a weapon for Caleb Williams. So, you know, he's been so reliable for the Bears. He has barely gotten injured, so it sucks that this happened. But just sending all my best wishes to Cole Kmet. I really hope he is okay. But getting into the updates from today. So before practice, according to Zach Pearson, Ben Johnson said that today will be their last install. A lot of short yardage and goal line, says it should be a physical practice. And that was a understatement, because it turned into one of the most physical practices that the Bears have ever had in their recent history. So according to Brad Biggs, he said that Bears wrapped up a 2-hour, 2-minute practice that was the most physical in terms of live hitting that I've seen since early in the Lovie Smith era. They got after it today. And then Courtney Cronin said, I don't know in my 10 years of covering the NFL that I've ever seen as much live tackling in a practice that we witnessed today. So it was a lot of getting after each other, hard hitting, live tackling. The pads were thumping. Like, it was stuff that we have not seen from previous Bears coaches since the Lovie Smith days. And that's a notable thing to bring up, because practices have changed a lot since the Lovie Smith days. Like, football was a lot more physical and violent back then. You could hit each other harder. You could do certain things that you can't do today. There's limits today on how many padded practices you can have in the off season. So, you know, usually practices are not as tough as they were back then, but it seems like Ben Johnson is bringing back the toughness and the intensity, which, if any of you out there thought that Ben Johnson was just like a nerd that calls plays, that just wants to stay hands off and just calls plays, like, that is not who he is, okay? He loves the violence of football. He loves the brutal nature of football, and he's going to make sure his players are as tough as they come. I mean, this kind of reminds me of Kyle Shanahan in some ways, because, you know, even though Kyle Shanahan is a brilliant play caller and his scheme is just, you know, fantastic to watch, like, it's very smart football that he plays, his teams are also extremely tough. They bully you in the trenches. They punch you in the mouth. They can run all over you in a variety of different ways. It's like smash mouth football in many ways, which maybe you wouldn't think of that coming from like a very smart play caller, but that is a staple of a Kyle Shanahan team. You guys saw, even when they don't have the talent, they can still beat up on you. I mean, they beat up on the Chicago Bears at the end of last year. Even though the Niners had so many injuries, they had a bad year, they beat the shit out of the Chicago Bears in Thomas Brown's first game. I mean, the Bears just got bullied in every single aspect in that game. It was not even close or competitive in any way, and that comes down to toughness, guys. It's not just talent. You can have as much talent as you want, but if you don't have tough, hard-nosed guys, you're not going to succeed as a football team. And this is a mentality that we need in Chicago. We are the Chicago Bears. We should be preaching toughness and physical, violent football, and Ben Johnson's bringing that back to Chicago. So it just really hypes me up and excites me to hear all these reports, because even though it is just practice, the fact that we have not practiced like this in so long, Like, it explains why our teams have been soft the past 20 years, but hopefully they go back to how tough they were, back in the Lovie Smith days. And speaking of how intense practice was, there was multiple fights that broke out today. Okay, according to my count, there were 4 fights that broke out today in practice. The first one, according to Adam Hogue, was I'll just read what he said here. But first, brouhaha of camp. Rome Odunze had his helmet pulled off, couldn't tell exactly who was involved defensively. Antoine Randall was playfully pulled from the scrum by another coach, right to it with the next play. And then there was another fight after that, according to Zach Pearson. Austin Booker and Braxton Jones tangled up, and it's another scuffle. Looks like Jervon Dexter pushed Jones to the ground. Then another fight, according to Zach Pearson, another scuffle. Roshan Johnson wasn't happy with a few guys tackling him after the play. He throws a football right at Jonathan Owens and then took him to the ground. And then according to Courtney Cronin, she said that I've counted 4 skirmishes today, including the last one between Braxton Jones and Austin Booker that ended with Jervon Dexter pushing Jones to the ground. So, damn, man. I mean, 4 fights in one practice. That is a pretty intense practice. Guys were going at each other. They were probably getting sick of practicing against each other so often. I mean, at some point in training camp, you just kind of get sick of hitting the same guys over and over again. You want to go up against different players, which is why I'm so excited that the Bears have a joint practice against the Miami Dolphins on Friday. They finally get to hit other players that are not their own teammates. So looking forward to Friday. But again, fights are going to happen in camp when you've been going at it for so long. It's day 11. It was pretty hot outside. They started practice at 12:30, a later practice. So the sun was beaming on them. I mean, these things are going to happen. Like 4 fights in one practice. I don't think I've ever seen that before covering Chicago Bears training camp. But I do like that these guys have that intensity to them. It's okay to let out the emotions that you have in practice. But when the games start, you got to be smart with that, okay? You can't be blindly tackling people after the play is over, like fighting with guys, getting 15-yard penalties. That is dumb football. In practice, maybe it's okay to unleash that here and there, but you got to keep it contained. According to Adam Hogue, he said that I imagine Ben Johnson's biggest issue with all the skirmishes today will be the penalties that came out of them. Footballs were tossed at defenders, bodies were tossed to the ground after the whistle. The intensity and competitiveness was good overall. It was cool to see Braxton Jones, who was involved in at least one of the scrums, immediately go to the defense when practice was over to shake hands. So clearly there was no bad blood between anybody. It was just a case of guys getting physical, guys getting competitive, and that is a good thing, okay? I'm not going to speak bad about fights in practice because fights happen every single training camp. I mean, it's a sign that guys actually care about football and they're not just here for a paycheck. Now, again, as I mentioned, you got to be smart when the games start. You can't be chucking footballs at players. You can't be tackling them after the play is over. That's going to lead to penalties and lead to the Chicago Bears losing games. So I hope they got all the energy out of their system today and it does not continue because, fights in every practice, that would be a sign of an undisciplined team. But fights every once in a while, I'm not going to hate on that, especially because it occurred during the most physical and intense practice in the last 20 years for the Chicago Bears. So, I'm curious to hear, what do you guys think about all the fights in practice? Are you guys for it? Are you guys against it? I think most fans are not going to really care that much. I mean, it's cool to see the guys going at it and really caring that much. But besides the fights and the intensity, talking about some of the other reports from practice. So it seemed like it was a pretty decent day for the Chicago Bears offense. They did a lot of good things today compared to the Family Fest outing on Sunday. That was a horrible practice by the Bears offense. They really sputtered that day, but today was a different story. According to Courtney Cronin, she said that this has been the definition of a get right practice for the Bears offense. Roshan Johnson pounded a couple runs in at the goal line. Heavy run emphasis so far. Intensity was on 11 from the start and led to a scuffle post whistle just now. So yeah, a lot of running the football. Roshan Johnson got a couple touchdowns in, and really love to see Roshan Johnson get these goal line carries. That's something that Shane Waldron could never figure out, that Roshan Johnson should be getting the ball at the 1 yard line, at the 2 yard line, because he has the power and the height to really, punch those balls in more than a DeAndre Swift does or any of the other running backs we have. Roshan should be our power short yardage back. It's cool that Ben Johnson already has had that figured out. Zach Pearson said that first 11-11 session in the books, offense won at the goal line with a few touchdowns from Roshan Johnson. Defensively, Noah Sewell has been impressive. He's hitting out there today. Glad to see Noah Sewell doing well because he is going to be the Bears LB3 strong side backer on this team, most likely at this point in time, unless Ruben Hippolyte, takes him over, which I don't think that's going to happen this early, being a rookie, being a pretty raw rookie. Noah Sewell is probably going to get that job. And according to all the reports, he's been looking pretty good out there. Okay, he's moving very well. He seems like he has a hang of the system. He's hitting guys super hard. He's being pretty instinctual. So if he can even be like 75% of what Jack Sanborn was for this defense, that would be an amazing thing for the Chicago Bears. Obviously, the Bears will be in nickel and dime packages a lot. I mean, Dennis Allen already has used a lot of dime nickel packages in training camp, so we're not always going to have 3 linebackers on the football field. But when we do go with 3 linebackers, hopefully Noah Sewell can do his job, be good against the run, provide some level of pass coverage, when he's out there as well, and just be adequate for the Bears. We don't need him to be a superstar being drafted in the 5th round, but he just has to hold his own. And so far, he's been doing that out there for the Chicago Bears this training camp. And I want to end this video by talking about a fantastic play from QB1 to Rome Odunze. So according to Zach Pearson, he said that Caleb Williams connects with Rome Odunze on a deep throw down the left sideline for a touchdown, about 48 or so yards. Beautiful ball. Good job of Rome tracking it. Nashawn Wright in coverage. Bear Report said that Caleb Williams threw his best ball of camp deep down the left sideline, hitting Rome Odunze for a touchdown. Nashawn Wright in coverage. I love to hear stuff like this. Caleb's deep accuracy has been pretty good in training camp so far. Like, I have not heard many reports of him completely overthrowing guys or not even being close to guys like he was in real games last year. Now, this is only practice, so when the games start, we'll see if he's actually improved in that aspect. But Caleb's deep accuracy has been on the money for the vast majority of training camp, and there's been a lot more deep passes that we have attempted so far in training camp compared to last year. I mean, I went to training camp last year with Shane Waldron, Eberflus, and Caleb's rookie year, and we barely attempted any of the deep balls down the field. It was mostly like horizontal stuff, like short mid stuff, which is how the games turned out too. So the fact that we are practicing these deep balls a lot more, Caleb is being accurate with them, that is a fantastic sign for this season. We need a deep game to be working this year, because last year we just didn't have any sort of a deep passing attack. So hopefully Rome can be catching more of these balls down the field when the games actually begin. But leave your comments down below, guys. What do you guys think about practice today? The Bears will be off tomorrow, but then they have another practice on Thursday and then the joint practice on Friday, which I can't wait to make my video about Friday's practice. There should be a lot of interesting reports to talk about from that day. But yeah, leave your comments down below. As always, bear down.